Hi, it's Jeff Altman, the Big Game Hunter, and welcome to Career Coach Office Hours, December 28th, 2021. I spent some time Tuesdays and Fridays talking about job search, hiring more effectively, management, leadership, resolving workplace related issues. And I'll simply say if you've got a question for me, in advance of the show, you can email it to me at thebiggamehunter@gmail.com. In the subject line, please put the phrase office hours. This way I know what it's about. And also, during the show, you can put a message into chat for me. I'd be happy to answer your question live. Again, thebiggamehunter@gmail.com. In the subject line, put the phrase office hours. And I'd be happy to answer the question on the show and, of course, in chat now. So on Friday, I did something that I hadn't done before, and I really liked it. So I'm going to do it again in a different way. So a coffee toast. It's 9:15 Eastern, and I'll simply say, here's to those of you who care. You care about doing good work. Your work matters to you. You want to keep getting better. You put in effort. Sometimes you run into resistance from your manager, your management, life itself, but you just keep trying. Sometimes you don't do as well as others. Welcome to being a human being. But I want to acknowledge those of you who just try and you want to get better, and you are getting better. So give yourself a moment just to recognize how far you've come from being 21 years old or 20 years old, as was my case, starting in the workforce, and how far you've come. Here's to those of you who care. I'm going to take a quick sip. And I've received questions in advance of the show, and I'm going to start by answering those. Again, if you're online and you want to leave a message for me in chat with a question, by all means, please do so. I'd be happy to answer it, whether you're on LinkedIn, YouTube, a Facebook Live, wherever you are, I'd be happy to answer your questions, okay? The first question for today, I've given notice to my employer, which is a senior living community, because I was offered another position. There's still a part of me that would like to provide service in a volunteer capacity with an activity of some type, should there ever be a need. Is it okay to offer? If so, how should I word that? Yes, by all means, it's a good thing to offer. Jennifer, hi, how are you? And by all means, give your notice, and you say to them in the time of notice, and they may try and talk you into staying, especially after you make this proposal to them. But make the offer and just simply say, I just want you to know that I've really enjoyed working here, and the fact of the matter is, I'd like to volunteer. I like being here, and I like helping the folks who work here and the people who we serve. Would that be a problem for you? And they'll say, no, by all means, we'd be happy to have you here. And after all, the fact of the matter is they're getting someone who knows the job for free. Why wouldn't they want it? And you can even joke, if there's a uniform that the volunteers have to wear, please don't make me wear the uniform. Please don't make me wear the uniform, and joke with them about that, because it's fun. It's human. And the truth is, most of those uniforms are pretty darn ugly, aren't they? So by all means, offer. Why not? You'd like to do it. Doesn't mean you're obligated to do it, and certainly not obligated during your work hours at the new job. But every once in a while, if you pop in on a weekend or an evening, I'm sure they'd be happy to have you. So by all means, feel free to make the offer. Enjoy it. An ex-coworker is messaging my coworkers and boss about me stating that I'm incompetent, rude, and I should be fired from my job. They also sent me the same email that they sent to the other people at my workplace. What should I do? This sounds like high school or junior high, worse, where people do this kind of catty crap. So here's how I handle it. I talk to my boss and say to them, refer to them by first name. Did you get this email? Yeah, I got that email. I find it reprehensible. Is there anything I need to do about this, or should we just wait for it to go away? And they'll probably say, no, we know it's a former person who has a bug up their butt about you. You annoyed them at some point. You're doing great work. They're going to give you an attaboy or attagirl. With your coworkers, you can say something to them along the lines of, have you ever heard of something like this? Am I that bad? And they'll all say, oh, no, you're fine. They just have a whatever it is. They'll poo-poo it. And then I would actually call the person directly and say, I've just sent a message up to the technical team asking that your email address be blocked because you're harassing me. So they're blocking your email address. Now go away. I hope you have a great career at your next organization. But if anything happens to me here, I'm filing suit against you. And start scaring them a little bit. Now, that one takes a degree of courage you may not want to do, but you can. And reach out to them and shut them up after you've spoken to, most importantly, your boss, and see what they have to say. Why do people say they were tricked by a recruiter or recruiters aren't honest? I worked as a recruiter for a lot of years. So if you want to take this as someone defending my former profession, I don't think it is, but you'll hear me and make your own decision. Not every recruiter is honest. However, the big thing is employers aren't honest too. And most of the time, the good recruiters are parroting the deceptions that recruiters tell corporate hiring managers and corporate recruiters are giving them. And they're communicating it to you. So the real thing isn't about the recruiter, because if you don't want to trust them, you don't have to trust them. It's about why you listen to the employer and what they're telling you without questioning them more deeply. You see, when they do behavioral interview questions, don't they deep dive further and want to find out more about what you did? Of course. Same thing needs to happen for you when they talk with you about the role, responsibilities, and what you're expected to accomplish during your tenure. One thing you'd always ask is, what happened to the person who sat at the desk you're going to assign me to? Why did they leave? Oh, they left for a better opportunity. What made it a better opportunity? Why couldn't they get that opportunity here? I needed them to do this, and they want to do something different, and thus they left for a different organization. What they're indirectly telling you is once you start working for them, they're not going to really upwardly promote you all that often. So you got to start thinking beyond simply the script that hiring managers will give you to persuade you to come to work there. Remember, you as a job hunter embellish the truth a little bit to finesse situations, right? Well, so do they. They want to fill that job. So they're going to say all sorts of we got a terrific opportunity. We're a great team of people here. Did I mention we're like family? Yeah, family like in the Christmas movies that are at one another's throats. They don't mention that part of it. Nor do they talk with you about why people leave, how much turnover rate there is, and you don't ask about it. You're afraid that if you ask questions like this, they're going to be turned off. And I understand, but you have to look out for you. And if you join a viper's nest if you join a high turnover environment and an agency recruiter is saying all sorts of complimentary things. You're listening to the agency recruiter who's just parroting what they've been told. Oh, I've worked closely with this manager for years. I've filled a lot of positions. How many positions have you filled? 2. Not a lot of positions. How long have you worked with them? About 6 months. Not a long time. And they may lie about that too, and you can confirm it in your conversations with the hiring manager. You can say, I'm just curious. The agency recruiter, Jeff, I'll use my name here. How long have you worked with them? Oh, about 6 years. Great, that's a long period of time. Have they filled a lot of positions with you? He does a great job. And that's the way I would encourage people to check me out, is to talk to the hiring manager. You've got to do the same thing too, and to be fearless about it. And you can say, hey, look, a lot of recruiters have a bad rep. I have no sense of Jeff and his work. I just want to check it out with you because you're his client. He said some nice things about you. I would expect a recruiter representing a firm to do that, but I want to check him out. What's been your experience of him? How long have you worked with him? Ask questions so that you can see whether they're finessing you, which is lying to you. And again, I'll just mention, if you have a question for me, feel free to put it into chat. I'd be very happy to answer your questions. The next question is, during an interview, when the interviewer asks, how will you prioritize multiple urgent task requests from multiple teams? How would you answer that? What's the best answer? Well, they're not asking you this question to say, give me more, I need more, whatever you say, I'm willing to do. They're looking for your prioritization skills. And what I would do in answering the question is say to my boss, hey, look, I've got multiple priorities here. I'm willing to take this on, but some things are not going to come out of me as well because I don't have 900 hours a week to do work. So I need your support in prioritizing these tasks. My first inclination is such and such should be my lead priority. Then from there, this, then that. I'm not sure if I can get this fourth item done in time. Could you run some interference for me and support me with that? Oh no, you have to get everything done. Well, I can't. I need your help here. That's why I'm asking for it. And thus, in answering this question, you talk about meeting with your boss to ask for their support with how you prioritize the solution to this. And then from there, what you're able to do is say, this is how I might do it, and this is where I'm going to have a sticking point. What do you think? Because they don't know the right answer until you guide them. Well, they're going to dig in deeper. Why does this have to slip? What's the issue here? And thus, by having that conversation, they can protect you. They can interact with the group and give them a sense of why there might be a delay in advance because someone else has something even more important they got from a managing director's desk to them, to you, or it got from the C-suite to you. And that has to take priority over this assignment. So the answer very simply is talk it out with your boss, giving them recommendations as to how you might do it so that they can help you prioritize and run interference for you. The next question is, oh, I love this one. What are the best ways or techniques to select the right candidate for a job? Oh, God. And I say that because, this is obviously a newbie manager or one who has failed with her or his hiring before. And normally that starts off with you didn't do a clear enough job of assessing what you needed someone to do and how you might evaluate for skills and experience in the course of the interview. So often what people do is they get team members to interview, and that's great. I really believe in that a lot, but they don't really tell them how they want them to interview or what they want them to assess for, and that they need to be able to defend their opinion in a conversation with you. And I think they're too light, which means nothing. What didn't they know? What did they know? So that this way you could say, that part wasn't all that important to this role. After all, how much time are they going to spend on that? And we're the only firm in the area that does that kind of work. I wouldn't expect them to know anything about it. And I can't tell you how often managers have laughed with me when they pointed that out to their staff after they interviewed that they were a unique service provider. No one else did what they did. No one could be expected to know that line of business like they did. So you have to be on your people and teach them how you evaluate and assess. You have to do a better job of evaluating and assessing for skills. Now, that's on one level. On another level, you want to get a sense of their character. Some people want to hire characters, people with personality. After all, in sales, you want to bring on people with personality. Did they have personality in the interview, or were they like a block of wood or a brick sitting opposite? What did you do to bring out those qualities in them? Did they have the twinkle in their eyes? Did they seem to like what they were doing? Now, that advantages people who are gregarious, like I am, who are willing to be expressive, as I am, and disadvantages those who are introverted. Introversion doesn't mean shyness. It means people who communicate in a different way than the extroverts do. And you want to make sure that what you need in the organization is an introvert or an extrovert. And once you identify an introvert, that may be a different personality type than what you have. They tend to be more meticulous. That's a great quality for firms to bring on. So you want to get a sense in the interview about their detail-oriented nature and talk to your people about evaluating for detail as part of the interview process. Again, overall, it's getting a sense of knowledge and personality and deciding in advance whether you want to hire an identical personality or a complementary personality to who's there. Often it's the complementary personality that initially is problematic, but really offers the greatest gift to you as an organization in your hiring. Why don't job sites have the ability to ask questions for the job posting? Well, in answering a question about interviewing, I pointed out that people lie, people exaggerate. A lot of these questions, unless you're timing response, they could be circumventing the process by going on Google or YouTube, watching a quick video, and then being able to provide an answer. People cheat. I even knew of one person, when they got to a test, sent someone in to take a written test for them. Imagine if this is done online and they're sitting with someone who's really an expert, and then from there, what they're doing is asking the expert for advice or calling them on the phone. So, there are limits to what you can suss out in the course of an application process. And thus, basics are really as much as you should expect a job board could go for. Beyond that, if someone's on camera, even then, cue cards could take place with someone off camera holding up a card, giving people a sense of how to answer a question. People cheat. I've seen it happen so many times when I worked in recruiting, and that's probably why job boards don't do it, because ultimately firms are going to want to qualify on their own whether or not someone can do this role. Okay, let's go on. My job interviewer, oh, I hate when someone says my. Um, the interviewer said after the interview, I could add him on LinkedIn. The interview was recently, so I have no news from them yet. Should I add them? I think you should, but I don't think you need to do it instantly. Here's why. Their network is going to be bigger than yours. That's going to give you an advantage. It's going to allow them to stay in touch with you for years to come. However, a lot of people are configured on LinkedIn to allow people to see your connections. And not every firm buys the LinkedIn recruiter package from LinkedIn. And thus, what they're doing is searching people's connections to find alternatives. In other words, use your network to hire someone. So there's a way that you can configure LinkedIn in your privacy settings to not make your network open to them. Look for that feature before you connect with them. Then, by all means, do connect. Then you don't have to wait to do it, because that's my one issue: is that people, as a default, reveal their networks to others, and then someone can go recruit them. And if they have the LinkedIn Recruiter product, then there's no issue. They have access to all of LinkedIn. So they're just being gracious and letting you connect with them to use their network to find work. And beyond that, by all means, go ahead and do it. How can you tell if someone is going to be a good employee or not based on the interview? That's really a previous question I did. Um, what I'll say to you is firms need to do a better job of hiring. And part of that is making clear what expectations are when someone comes on board. If you're going to describe the work week as in a sanitized way without bringing out some of the problems they may run into or what the environment is really like, you're lying to them. Don't lie. Let people know the good, the bad, the ugly. And simply say, I believe people can be successful here, but some haven't been. And they've chosen to leave. I want to be clear about that. We don't drive them out the door. We haven't fired anyone in this group. What we're able to do is provide good work. And this is what a typical day is going to look like. This is who you're going to interact with. Typically, there's a lot that you can address. But, the fact of the matter is people do leave. And they leave for better things because they learn a lot here. And they move on to other organizations where they can leverage it and make more money. Remember, like most organizations, we have wage guidelines where we can give people certain percentage increases. People take the increases and go elsewhere, so they jump. You're laying out all the stuff openly so that they can make a good choice too. And in screening for people, I always say competence is only one thing a firm should look for: self-confidence, character, chemistry, charisma, that you care about your work, because you want to hire people who care. No care, you shouldn't hire them. If they seem blasé about their work, they don't care that much. As such, care is an important quality because you want to be able to trust them. No trust, you shouldn't hire them. So part of scaring them off by telling them all this stuff is to scare off people who wouldn't function well in your environment. Okay, I hope that helps you. Let's see now. Okay, I've got two more questions as of now. Why do some companies publish urgent requirement jobs, but neither say or, this is badly languaged, so I'm going to paraphrase, but don't respond even after months of follow-up after the interview? Well, they don't respond because you weren't chosen. And they talk about urgent requirements because it's kind of like a TV commercial where they talk about something exciting, and urgency implies to you like this could be a quick hire. I can have a job quickly. So they use that term urgent. And I tend to think of recruiters, like third-party recruiters and consulting firms doing that. Consulting firms do it because they have to respond to an RFP. They may not have someone in-house who can do that role, so they want to identify someone who can. So urgent allows them to create excitement to get more responses, and then they may not have won the assignment. So they're hoping you fade away and go away so that they don't have to tell you the truth. So urgency is a way they stimulate more responses, they think. And they don't follow up because you weren't chosen, they weren't chosen, or some other reason. What are the reasons for subjecting applicants to psychological tests and in interviews during recruitment? So, psychometric tests are interesting depending upon the firm's test. I've been having conversations. Um, Pamela, I'll be with you in just 1 minute. I've been having conversations with one test developer in the UK who's got an interesting test that really pegged me very well. And the idea is with some of these tests, they do a good job of identifying attributes that you have that will make you more or less effective in their workplace, depending upon whether or not they want to hire an identical person or a complementary person. I'm kind of turning my hands in ways that allow people to see whether or not someone could fit or complement the team. So what they're trying to do is go past the veneer that someone presents in an interview to go deeper and to identify whether or not someone could actually deliver in their organization. Pamela comments, I had my resume professionally written, and the next day a recruiter made me change it, which is pretty common because, Pamela, a resume is a generic document, but it may not do a good enough job of selling you into one organization for one particular job. So they may have wanted you to emphasize one part of your background over another, and there's nothing wrong with that. Doesn't make the resume writer bad. They gave you a generic document. If you were in tech, you might understand the phrase object-oriented programming. And in effect, your resume consists of a variety of objects that can be moved around depending upon the emphasis points for the document or for the job. So not a bad thing that they wanted you to make a change. They wanted to get you in the door with one of their clients, and they thought that particular part of your background made sense to emphasize. If that was a legitimate skill of yours, by all means, follow their advice. If it isn't, you tell them, I'm not good at that. So not making a change to it then politely says, I'm not really qualified. Jennifer messaged, these are good food for thoughts, getting me thinking here. That's part of the idea, is I talk with people about job search, hiring more effectively, management, leadership, and different workplace issues. Remember that one from the beginning of the show where there was the catty former employee sending the email saying, you're no good, you're no good, you're no good. And let's see now. We have someone on YouTube with a comment that I have no idea what that means, so I'm just going to get rid of it. So I'll simply say, folks, if you have a question for me, you can email it to me in advance, at thebiggamehunter@gmail.com. In the subject line, put the phrase office hours. So this way I know what it's about and can respond to it for in the next show. In addition, during a show, obviously, you can put a question into chat. I'd be very happy to answer. Next thing I want to point out is I've got a lot more at my YouTube channel at JobSearchTV.com, and my podcast, which is called No BS Job Search Advice Radio, which is #1 in Apple Podcasts for job search. No show as many episodes as I do, with more than 2,300 episodes at this point. And I'm going to pause here because I got another message from someone. Let's see. Coach Jeff, often recruiters say that candidates back off after the offer letter. But what if the company backs off or delays in the offer letter after selecting? What can a candidate do? I've invested 2 months in the complete process. What's your suggestion? So let's say they've orally made an offer to you, or the recruiters say that you have an offer. We're waiting for the offer letter, but you've got an offer. I contact the firm directly and simply say, I just want to confirm that I've received an oral offer. Is that true? Now, the agency recruiter may be stalling you and trying to give you the idea that you have an offer when you don't. So you want to confirm with the employer that they're making you an offer. I'm curious, what's the delay in my receiving the offer letter? We're doing a background check. Somewhere along the line, you may have checked the box that allows them to do a background check. If the company is backing off, that's a different scenario because, like applicants ghost, companies back off. I'd have a conversation with the manager I interviewed with, and they may tell you, we have a freeze on. I can't bring you on board until January, which is a few weeks from now. Actually, it's a week from now, in which case there's no big deal. And they'll explain why, sound guilty, but you got the offer. We just can't do anything until January. Have a conversation directly. That's what a candidate can do. You are a human being affected by their behavior. Agency recruiters will tell you not to do this. They're in charge. And in many respects, I would feel the same way if I were doing recruiting. But you're asking me as a coach to support you with this, and I'm going to tell you, talk directly with the firm. And if they're not responding to you, if they don't return your calls or respond to your emails, there's a message in the behavior. And the fact that you've invested 2 months in the complete process, it signals to me that they don't care, that you're always going to be a commodity. And as such, consider it fortunate that this happened before you joined, so that in this way, you're not in a situation that could be damaging to you once you join. So it's a painful scenario, obviously, because you put your heart and soul into this. And now they're acting like creeps. That's why I don't just accept it from the person in the middle, the agency recruiter. Talk with them directly so that in this way, you can hear by their tone of voice, not just their words, but by their tone of voice, where if they sound sincere like I am right now, that's very different than if they sound, we got this situation, and they seem like they're BSing you. Got it? So, Ritesh, I hope you found that helpful. And if anyone else wants to get in a question under the wire, by all means do so. I'm Jeff Altman, the Big Game Hunter. My website is thebiggamehunter.us. Go to the site, go exploring there. I've got thousands of posts you can watch, listen to, or read. I have courses that you can purchase. You can schedule time for a free discovery call or schedule time for coaching. I'd love to help you. Also, I mentioned my YouTube channel at JobSearchTV.com. More than 7,000 videos there. They're all on my website, but if you prefer going to YouTube, by all means do so. JobSearchTV.com. No BS Job Search Advice Radio, as I was saying, is #1 in Apple Podcasts for job search. In the next few weeks, we're going to hit episode 2300. I've been on since November 2010. No show is as close to me in terms of episodes. I've just created a lot of content to help people. It's not personalized for you, which is why I do the coaching, so I can streamline all of this and give you direct advice. Also, I've got books on Amazon. You can purchase them there. The two that I always recommend are The Ultimate Job Interview Framework, which will teach you how to interview like an all-star, and The Right Answers to Tough Interview Questions, which has lots of different questions you might be asked on interviews. Also, last thing I'll point out is connect with me on LinkedIn at linkedin.com/IN/The Big Game Hunter. I hope you have a terrific day, and most importantly, be great. Take care.